Tonight, selfish Victorians blasted by the Premier as COVID case numbers hit a high. A race to help families going hungry in isolation as Shepparton faces a crisis. Supermarket anger over COVID testing on the doorstep. TV football star Brian Taylor opens up on the accident that led to an emergency hospital dash. And a messy exit as Carlton sacks David Teague after weeks of speculation.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell.
Good evening. Daniel Andrews has lashed out at selfish Victorians, blaming them for the escalating Delta crisis. The Premier took aim at the young as the state recorded another 80 new cases, more than half out in the community while infectious.
Young Victorians camping out to get their vaccines. But these images of hope came with a sobering new outbreak high. 80 daily cases, 41 not isolating, sparking a blast from the Premier.
Don't act in a selfish and irresponsible way. You don't get to choose for the rest of us. You don't have that right.
Too many are taking too long to get tested.
If you've got symptoms today, get tested today. Don't, for heaven's sake, as some have, wait 8 days and literally infect everybody you come anywhere near. Just think about the people you love the most in the world on a machine to breathe.
3/4 of transmission with the Delta variant occurs without symptoms or before you've developed symptoms.
The challenge we're seeing in too many of our cases is where there has been a history of people moving and visiting around other households, the virus travels with them. And that's the thing we have to stop now.
There are now more than 800 exposure sites across the state, including Northcote Primary Aftercare Program. Tier 1 after a positive case attended for 3 days last week. The waiting room of the Monash Medical Emergency Department also exposed to an infected patient. But for the 3 questions on every Victorian's lips, there are still few answers. Will lockdown end as planned next Thursday?
The numbers today mean that there's no chance of that?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's too early for us to say what we'll be doing.
When will students return to school?
Is it fair to say it's probably not going to be this term?
No, what's fair to say is that everyone would love an answer to that question, and I'd love nothing more than to give you a definitive answer, but I can't.
And the footy.
Premier, have you given up hope that the grand final could be staged at the MCG?
No. I'm not here to make any announcements about major events.
On a staggering day for Sydney, recording more than 1,000 cases, residents there were given a promise of freedom for the fully vaccinated. From September 13, groups of 5 will be able to gather outside.
This is about rewarding the community in a way that is very safe.
I think the Premier needs to understand Victorians are sick of being lectured to by him. We need hope. We need hope and a plan out of lockdown.
Epidemiologists say we're reaching a crucial point in this outbreak that requires us to stick with our toughest restrictions to help bring the case numbers down. But they are calling for some respite in the weeks ahead.
Maybe not wearing masks all the time outdoors, particularly if you're vaccinated. There's some of the things that we might be able to introduce.
We've thrown everything at this current outbreak. We locked down immediately. We had strict and we've had broad restrictions in place. They have done a terrific job, but the fight is still on. Jade Vincent, 7 News.
The number of Victorians forced into isolation is increasing every day. Christy Cooper joins us now. And Christy, the main areas of concern are Melbourne's north and west.
Mitch, the list of exposure sites are growing by the hour. This Woolworths in Sydney Road, the latest Tier 2 site to be added this afternoon. There are now more than 800 exposure sites right across Victoria. Some of the new Tier 1 locations include legal offices in Kilsyth and Barakat International Goods in Hoppers Crossing. Authorities say they continue to be worried about the Altona and Newport areas, with fears the virus could be spreading undetected throughout Melbourne's inner west. There are currently more than 30,000 primary and secondary close contacts in isolation, Mitch.
Christy Cooper at Brunswick, thank you. The Army is preparing to help authorities in the race to get food to families going hungry in isolation in Shepparton. They're struggling to get groceries and medical supplies as the outbreak grows to nearly 70 cases.
A mum's plea,
We need more help here.
highlighting a town's desperation.
At the moment, we are in dire straits.
Since the first COVID case emerged in Shepparton last Friday, things have deteriorated so quickly. Some families can't put food on the table and are relying on donations.
People are really anxious. Some of them haven't eaten for days. A lot of people who haven't been ever vulnerable in their lives are now. Their network is not available to them.
The problem stems from the fact a huge proportion of the town is in 14-day isolation after visiting exposure sites. The mayor estimates it could be 20,000 residents. Many work in supermarkets or food distribution, and the resulting staff shortages mean many online grocery orders can't be filled.
We need to do immediate support, and it's a crisis, and we need to make sure that on a day-to-day basis that people are getting the essential things they need.
With 18 new cases taking the cluster total to 67, authorities have finally moved in. Emergency management personnel are coordinating logistics and talking to supermarkets, while the Army is deploying 80 soldiers to help with door knocks and testing.
We're bringing in testers from the Northern Territory and other states and territories to support the Victorian response.
There's help on the way from Melbourne Thu, a prominent restaurant owner so moved by the town's plight, he's sending up 1,000 meals.
It's hard to believe that here in Victoria or in Australia that we've still got young families going without food, and so our hearts were broken.
Testing centres will be swamped in coming days with those in isolation coming out to do their 13-day swab. The Premier says planning is underway to make sure the process runs smoothly and that no one is in quarantine for a day longer than necessary.
We need to get the job done, and we just need the support.
Georgia Commons-Solly, 7 News.
And Victorians have answered the call to get vaccinated with record numbers of bookings and doses. Melina Saris joins us now. And Melina, the push to fully vaccinate every Year 12 student, though, has hit a hurdle.
Yes, Mitch, the government said yesterday it was making it a priority to vaccinate all Year 12 students by the start of exams on the 4th of October. But they have since said that there's no actual plan in place to make that happen just yet. And this is just a goal that has parents and students confused and demanding to be put at the front of the queue. End-of-year exams are 63 days away, and these Year 12 students should be studying.
We've been here for 5 hours, and I hear friends who were there yesterday for like 8 hours, 9 hours.
I just want to get back to school really and get back there before exams.
They're lining up in person and online for their shot at vaccine freedom.
I was unable to get through on the website for a few hours, and both my parents tried to book their GPs, like a private appointment.
The government has directed all VCE students to get vaccinated before exams begin in October.
They've put out an interesting thing saying that you need to be vaccinated to sit exams, but they're not prioritising kids to sit to get vaccinations.
The state government is still working on that.
We have very successfully used priority lanes, and I think you'll see that will be a feature of the plan that we announce, and we'll announce that quite soon. It's not going to be tomorrow. Got to get the planning right, but there's a lot of planning work going on.
That's not good enough, Premier. These young people are doing it tough. They're wasting time now in queues when they should be in class.
200,000 appointments were booked yesterday at our state hubs as Pfizer eligibility opened to 16 to 39-year-olds. And Victoria hit a new daily record, more than 79,000 shots. The vaccine will soon open up to an even younger age group.
12 to 15-year-olds in Australia will be vaccinated.
The country's expert vaccine group, ATAGI, has given the green light for children to receive the Pfizer jab. Details will be released after National Cabinet tomorrow. Melina Saris, 7 News.
There's been a backlash over a COVID testing site in Melbourne's west. Tegan Doling has the details. And Tegan, it's putting potentially positive COVID cases on the doorstep of a supermarket.
Mitch, it's so close to the Altona IGA that people waiting to get tested are lining up outside, but they're actually blocking the front entrance to the store. This security camera vision shows why the owner is so worried for the health and safety of not only his staff, but also his customers. With a Dorevitch testing site just down the road, the queue has stretched in front of his shop stores over the last couple of days, following obviously that huge push for locals to get tested. He's also concerned that some may have entered the store after getting tested when they should be isolating immediately.
My staff is scared, they don't really want to come to work, and the customers are too scared to enter. It makes it very hard for me to do my job and do my duty if there's a COVID guys are standing, maybe there's a COVID positive case standing and resting outside my supermarket.
And there was a development late this afternoon. The council has said that they will be redirecting that line down the other end of the street. Unfortunately, though, Mitch, that means it will be diverted back towards other businesses.
Tegan Doling at Altona, thank you. Former football star Brian Taylor is recovering after he was injured in a gas explosion at his home. The Channel 7 commentator was airlifted to hospital with burns to his face and neck.
Brian Taylor seriously injured, clutching his face as paramedics wheel him into a waiting ambulance.
After that, the sort of shock sets in, but yeah, just that first 3 or 4 seconds, put my hair out and then get out of there and move on and get a wet towel over my face, which all the locals up here helped with, which was absolutely fantastic, and that saved any sort of swelling or any blistering on the face.
Taylor airlifted to hospital with serious facial injuries.
Making sure that there was nothing wrong with my airways, first of all, and that was really why. And then geographically up here where we are, there's no other way really of getting to a major city hospital.
BT had only moved into his new Gippsland property yesterday and was trying to light a hot water service when it exploded.
I've got quite a big forehead now, as you can see. It's burnt right back into my hair, and the old moustache got a bit of a touch up as well.
The former plumber says he's learnt a valuable lesson.
My mum and dad always told me never play with matches, and that's very, very true.
He was quick to praise the remarkable job done by staff at the Alfred.
I've learnt that there are a lot of good people out there doing a lot of fantastic jobs, and I've learnt it firsthand, unfortunately.
First goal of the grand final goes to the Tigers.
The voice of Seven's coverage. Fans will hear his familiar tones when Port take on the Cats tomorrow night.
If you were to call that moment like you were calling a game, what would you say?
Wow. Bang!
Jacqueline Felgate, 7 News.
An Australian man is trapped in Afghanistan, last seen bleeding and trying to push his way into the dangerous Kabul airport. His wife is pleading for authorities to help bring him home.
Beaten, bloodied.
They hit me, baby. I'm Australian citizen, they hit me, baby.
Desperate to go home, his words worthless to Taliban soldiers who talk with violence.
When I was crossing airport.
Pictures watched by his helpless wife in Adelaide.
What should I do? Who can help me? He's Australian. What happened to him?
Farid Nikbakht travelled to Afghanistan in June to see his sick mum. An Australian citizen for 10 years, father of 3. He sold his barber shop to get there and now is trapped, texting home so they know he's alive.
He's not safe, he needs help.
From the Prime Minister today.
We'll do everything we possibly can to get as many people out as safely as we can.
But those waiting in open sewage around Kabul airport have now been warned to leave immediately.
There is an ongoing and very high threat of terrorist attack.
It's unclear how many Australian citizens or visa holders remain in Afghanistan. The US estimates it has 1,500 Americans still there.
There is no deadline on our work to help any remaining American citizens who decide they want to leave to do so.
The big question facing the White House is what that help will look like. One thing is certain, no amount of experience or training could have prepared troops for a deployment like this.
In Washington, D.C., Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
Back home now, and David Teague's messy departure from Carlton is complete. The coach was sacked today after weeks of speculation, leaving Blues bosses to try to explain and the club searching for its 6th coach in a decade.
Lunch with his players was David Teague's last supper, the board finally sacking the coach early this morning.
David was not able to influence and get the best out of our playing group.
Teague wasn't at Carlton's media conference.
If David would like to have a press conference, I very much respect his opinion to do that.
A lack of player support a big factor. Fewer than 50% back Teague in an anonymous survey.
We believe the potential of this list is much better than we're seeing on the field at the moment.
Lee Matthews said Carlton bosses have no idea how to run a football club. The new president insisting Teague wanted to learn his fate at the end of the season.
If David had said, kind of bring it on and let's quickly bottom this out, then the board would have responded accordingly.
It means Carlton will have 7 coaches in just 14 years, 6 while Luke Sayers has been on the board.
Clearly the board and myself personally take some responsibility for that.
Sources say Ross Lyon topped Sayers' wish list, the club promising an exhaustive search to find the very best coach.
We'll leave no stone unturned to go out there and run a process to find the very best coach, and part of that process will be doing due diligence on every single person being considered.
We are looking to make finals in 2022.
Tom Brown, 7 News.
Australia is tied at the top of the Paralympic medal tally after a stunning gold rush in the pool. Our swimmers say they were inspired by the record medal haul of their Olympic counterparts.
4 gold medals on opening night, starting with a right royal performance.
And we've crowned a new king.
Will Martin set a Paralympic record in his 400 metres freestyle final. The former swim coach took up the sport 14 years ago after a stroke.
Oh, the kids would be ecstatic with how their old coach went.
Next up, the girl they call Lucky.
Lakeisha Patterson.
There was nothing lucky about this effort in her 400 freestyle final.
Patterson's coming back, the heart of a champion.
It's been such a long, hard couple of years. Oh my God, I told my coach I wasn't going to cry.
For those who have watched every step of Patterson's journey through cerebral palsy and epilepsy, tears were a given.
We're just so proud of her. Sorry, starting again.
Rowan Crothers had something special planned for when he won the 50 freestyle.
Look at him, he loves it.
I've always said, when I win my first Paralympic gold, I'm going to get up in the lane rope, but I've never practiced getting on a lane rope before.
Rowan's best mate, Ben Popham, completed the Golden Quartet in the 100 freestyle.
Oh my God, you couldn't write a better story. I'm so stoked.
Sport has helped both find meaning and left proud friends and family in awe.
It helps me feel acknowledged being good in sport, because obviously sport's such an essential part of the Australian life.
And they're only getting started. 3 more Aussies race for gold tonight, including Tim Disco Diskin, one of the great characters of our Paralympic team.
Competing against the world stage and with the amazing Australian team, I'll be able to find that little bit extra tonight.
In Tokyo, Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
The teams are in for a huge week 1 of AFL finals. Tim Watson, one of footy's most exciting stars, won't be playing this weekend.
That's right, Mitch. A Bombers match winner won't take on the Bulldogs. Andrew McCormack has inside access to the selection news ahead of a big finals campaign, Andrew.
Tim Essendon will be without Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody for a 3rd straight week due to personal reasons. Young Jai Caldwell named for the Bombers back from a hamstring injury in an extended squad. Luke Beveridge has resisted calls to bring back Stephen Martin. No Josh Shackey or Jamari Ugle-Hagan either. Ryan Gardner is back from that shoulder injury. Melbourne going unchanged against the Lions. Star defender Harris Andrews back for Brisbane. Sean Higgins, the medical sub for Geelong. Max Holmes, unlucky one to miss out. Horatio Fantasia replaces the injured goal kicker from Port Adelaide, Mitch Georgiades. And a big out for the Swans. No Callum Mills, arguably leading their best and fairest this year. And big Shane Mumford, one of 3 inclusions for the Giants. Tim?
Thanks, Macca. Also ahead, the Cats say their goodbyes as they hit the road to Adelaide. A big Bomber star with a target on his back. Here exclusively from Darcy Parish. And Mitch, another huge star, pulls out of the US Open. I'll see you again soon.
OK, thanks very much, Tim. Qantas is planning for overseas flights in time for Christmas, even though it's just posted a massive loss. That's coming up next. Also, why a supermarket giant is giving butchers the chop. The surprise stowaway going to extreme lengths to get into Queensland. Footy fans facing finals heartache as their teams head interstate. And coming up, why it's a ferocious magpie swooping season. Also, how Singapore went from COVID-0 to reopening with the virus. Qantas has so much faith in our vaccine rollout, it's announced plans to restart international flights in time for Christmas. The airline posted a multi-billion-dollar COVID loss while trying to guess when state borders will reopen.
The new COVID-safe Qantas and its annual results. An empty room with questions by phone.
Press *2.
So this could be the shortest press conference we've ever done.
But the view from the air is now glass half full.
We ready to go?
Apparently, we are. Turns out that new Qantas campaign, which has got Australia dreaming about Disneyland and beyond, is anything but pie in the sky. Gorgeous. The airline's hulking A380s, currently baking in a California desert, are soon to be reborn. From December, Singapore, Vancouver, Tokyo, as well as London and LA. New Zealand's in there too. Then in April, Asia, from Bali to Bangkok, Phuket and Ho Chi Minh.
This is our plan.
We will be jumping on that plane as soon as it's ready to go.
We're going to see some incredible bargains, I believe, to get people flying again.
It hinges on 80% of us fully vaxxed, home quarantine instead of hotels, and flying London via Darwin instead of via Perth to dodge any issues with the WA border.
We always hope for the best and plan for the worst.
And it's that thinking that's seen Qantas one of just 7 airlines on Earth to maintain its credit rating throughout COVID, converting seats to storage to carry record freight, and seeing record redemptions for watches and wine, as we learnt to spend points on the ground. But none of it enough to avert a multi-billion-dollar loss, with revenue slashed, along with 9,000 jobs.
These are big numbers.
And they won't turn around anytime soon, with more than half the nation tonight locked down. This is Australia's busiest airport, where the only thing flying is a COVID cleaner's mop. But the hot tip from Qantas, borders should be open in 3 more months. Gemma Acton, 7 News.
Coles has axed more than 1,000 butchers across Australia. The supermarket will end its in-store butchery service and sell only pre-packaged meat. Coles says it's working with the butchers to find them new jobs within the company. A woman has tried to defy Queensland's border ban by hiding in the boot of a car on the back of a tow truck.
I'm going to be nice to you. There's no need to be rude.
Police allege it was her 3rd attempt to jump the border. She's been fined more than $4,000. Desperate fans are pleading with the state government not to give up on playing the grand final at the MCG. The game is most likely going to be played in Perth, but a former premier has another idea.
From this demon's den to this Bulldogs beanbag, fury at the MCG's likely loss of the grand final again.
Very, very sad. I'm devastated. It's just...
It's extremely hurtful for the fans.
It's now almost certain the game will be played in Perth.
It'll be a great event, an historic event, an opportunity to showcase our state.
Oh, look, it's going to be incredibly difficult for us to have major events anytime soon. That's just a fact.
But a former premier insists it could still be at the G with vaccinated crowds and workers only.
So if people are double vaccinated and have the rapid test, we could fill the MCG for the grand final. And it would just lift the hearts and soul of the community.
Dismissed as still too dangerous.
No footy match is worth being locked down for longer, though.
But Joel Williams has not given up on an MCG grand final. The 46-year-old has never seen a demon premiership.
Potentially breaking a 57-year-old drought in situations like this where you're not necessarily going to be there firsthand to experience it. I still haven't wrapped my mind around that just yet.
Sharon Cutterjar saw a Bulldog premiership in person in 2016. But
we're greedy, we want more. I want a 3-peat, 4-peat, 5-peat. I want to win them every year.
Go Demons!
Come on, let's go Bulldogs!
Divided in passion, united in their plea.
Please, please, I'm begging you with everything. Please let us have the grand final here. Please.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Love the dressing gown. Jane Bunn joins us now. And Jane, is it warming up anytime soon?
Mitch, it will for one day of the weekend. Today we had 2 extremes, both our coldest night and day so far this month, thanks to above average rain over autumn and winter. Our dams have reached 80% for the first time in 7 years. Above average rain is likely to continue. The outlook for spring shows large parts of central and eastern Australia with high chances of wet conditions overall. spring. Next week, the first few days of spring look absolutely delightful here. I'll have the 8-day outlook after sport. Mitch.
Now that sounds good. Thank you very much, Jane. Shoppers are facing another hit for Christmas. Next, a global crisis starting to bite, pushing up prices and reducing choices. Also, the protesters police are desperate to find after a showdown on our streets. And Taylor Walker opens up on his racism row, but not his future.
That's been the hardest thing, is how I've let my family down.
The daughter of a Vietnam veteran has won her fight to bring her sick father to Victoria. Robert Wood lives alone in Merimbula after having 2 surgeries. His application to join his children in Victoria was rejected by the health department, but there's been a change of heart.
Dad's just overwhelmed at the moment. I think he's already packing his gear and he's booked his flight.
Mr. Wood will now fly to Melbourne next week. Police are hunting 8 protesters after the violent anti-lockdown demonstration last Saturday. Cameron Bowe has the latest, and Cameron, they're alleged to have attacked police officers.
Mitch, these 8 males are suspected of being among the worst offenders during what was one of the most violent gatherings in recent years. 6 of the males are wanted over vicious clashes with police. Some of those incidents were captured by cameras worn by police. One of the men was armed with a baton. Another 2 males are wanted for letting off flares during the rally. 9 police officers were hospitalised due to the violence, and we have word that the list of violent suspects goes well beyond these 8 males. Police have received fresh information today which they believe will lead to them making arrests, Mitch.
Cameron Bowe at Police Headquarters, thank you. Former Adelaide Crows captain Taylor Walker has broken his silence over the racist slur that's threatening his career. The 31-year-old hopes he can repair his reputation.
I hope that I'm not remembered for one remark. That's been the hardest thing, is how I've let my family down. Just the impact that it's had on them, and I've got some work to do with my family as well.
Walker says he's yet to make a decision on his playing future. A Mexican Navy helicopter has made a crash landing after suffering mechanical problems shortly after takeoff. The chopper clipped a small bus as it came down, but incredibly, no one was killed. A Mexican government minister was on board, one of 3 people taken to hospital with minor injuries. 6 smokestacks at a decommissioned power plant have been demolished in a spectacular controlled implosion. They had dominated the Alabama landscape for 66 years. The power company says it's part of its move away from coal towards cleaner energy options. And a wild tornado has torn through a city in northeast China. It lasted just a minute but caused major damage to buildings, trees and power lines. At least 1 person was injured. We're being warned to expect higher prices and product shortages in the lead up to Christmas. A world shipping crisis is hitting supply chains for everything from coffee makers to cars.
99% of everything that comes in and goes out of Australia is by sea. Shipping is our lifeblood, and at the moment it's hemorrhaging. In the last year, the world has gone on a spending spree that's created a massive demand for ships and container space.
The world's consumers are now primarily purchasing their products online. That's put massive pressure on those global freight routes.
And it's driving the price of Australia's imports and exports through the roof. The cost to move a single steel box has skyrocketed in the last year from about $1,000 to nearly $5,000. The cost of bunker fuel and huge delays and congestion in ports around the world has the industry in a tangle. Exporters are getting whacked too. Nola Pierce's company makes lifelike body parts and wounds that add realism for trainee surgeons, army medics and first responders.
The cost of the freight that we're putting on the bottom of that is often more than the cost of or equal to the cost of the items.
And it's not going to get better anytime soon. Jeff Parry, 7 News.
There are warnings to expect more magpie swooping this year because of face masks. Experts explain why after the break. Also, what we can learn from Singapore when it comes to getting back to life alongside COVID. And the new plan to bring flying taxis to Melbourne within 5 years. Ornithological experts are warning that magpies could be particularly aggressive this spring, and COVID is to blame. Face masks mean the birds can't read human expressions and don't know who to trust.
Spring is swooping in, and so too are magpies.
I just sort of keep an eye out. You never get that warning. You hear the wings flapping.
September is prime breeding time for the park-loving birds. The males will do anything to protect the nest. Usually, magpies can remember friendly faces, but with masks now mandatory outdoors, that recognition is gone.
If they dislike someone in the neighbourhood and they're constantly going at that one person, and then every single person now has this mask on, they may think, that's him, gotta get him.
They usually swoop just a few people or a certain type of person. For instance, some magpies will only swoop bike riders, whereas other magpies will swoop people walking.
The Magpie Alert website has had more than 170 reports of swooping attacks this year across the city. Experts recommend looking online before heading outside.
It would maybe be worth it because you're going to avoid people falling on bikes, you'll avoid kids kind of running over screaming, and potentially avoid, blindness.
If you're swooped, the advice is try to stay calm, avoid running away or throwing your arms up in the air, and if you're brave enough, face the bird front on.
If you're not facing them, they're just going to keep going for you.
Sarah Jones, 7 News.
Take care out there. Qantas was one of the best performers on the market today, despite posting multi-billion-dollar losses. Finance editor Gemma Acton has more.
Thanks, Peter. A flurry of well-received earnings reports wasn't enough to stop the ASX 200 from sinking 41 points today to 7,491. Shareholders saw through Qantas's hefty loss to make it one of today's best performers, while Woolworths also finished in the green after announcing a $2 billion share buyback. The Aussie dollar is treading water around 72.5 US cents, while iron ore has gained back a little of the ground lost in recent weeks. And while recent lockdowns have hurt the labour market recovery, the number of payroll jobs today is still slightly ahead of pre-pandemic levels, as shown by the red dotted line. Peter.
Gemma Acton reporting. Like Australia, Singapore long pursued a COVID-0 strategy, closing its borders and imposing strict rules. But after a rapid vaccination rollout, the city is pushing ahead with reopening. Angela Cox looks at how Singapore is learning to live with COVID.
Peter, it's the business hub that's been isolating from the rest of the world, but now Singapore has decided it's time to reconnect, giving up on the elimination strategy. Hailed as a COVID success story during the first wave in 2020, Singapore's daily case numbers topped around 1,500. But swift decisions to shut the border and implement lockdowns suppressed the virus to single digits. The city-state has recorded just 49 deaths during 18 months of the pandemic. In recent weeks, case numbers began to climb again as Delta dug in. But with one of the highest vaccination rates in the world, the nation has begun opening up. 50% of the workforce is back in the office. Weddings, church services and sport events are capped at 1,000 people, but only if everyone is fully vaccinated. That goes for gyms too, which are resuming mask-free classes for inoculated residents. The state recently launched vaccinated travel lanes. From September, inoculated arrivals from certain countries no longer need to quarantine, but they will need a total of 4 negative tests before and during their stay. Soon, more nations will be added to this list, a sign that Singapore is firmly on a one-way path to freedom. Peter.
Angela Cox reporting. There's a new plan to have aerial taxis taking off in Melbourne in just 5 years. If a Brazilian company gets its way, 100 electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft will be flying around our city by 2026. It fills the void of Uber Elevate, which had first promised air taxis by 2023. We shall see. Sport is next with Tim Watson. Tim, the fallout was brutal today at Carlton.
It was, Mitch. With David T gone now, the hunt for his replacement is already underway. We're live with the latest next. Also, finally some good news at Collingwood with a son of a gun signing on. Mitch Duncan backs his body to hold up as the Cats hit the road for the long haul. Hear exclusively from a Bombers big game player and how he'll handle the finals heat. And the tennis world rocked by Serena's latest announcement. Welcome back. Carlton will tomorrow kickstart a lightning-fast process to find a new coach. Chief football reporter Tom Brown is live with the details. And Tom, there's been a major twist, though, this afternoon.
Tim, a big twist. I've just spoken to Carlton Life member Vince Locasano, who has told me he will lodge papers tomorrow for an EGM to spill the board in the next couple of months, calling for an election and spill of the board. I've also spoken to Carlton President Luke Sayers by text, who's told me, well, bring it on. Carlton added 4 highly popular and skilled directors today, including Diesel Greg Williams. As far as Ross Lyon, he is now favourite to take over from Teague, the clear favourite in my view, and I believe the President has already spoken to Ross Lyon based on this grab.
I am always talking to lots of people in footy. I would be remiss if I hadn't been always sort of looking at opportunities.
Tim, it's also emerged late today a small but highly influential and skilled group of players did go to Kane Little, the Carlton CEO, this week and try at the last minute to save David Teague.
Is this going to cause some friction and some tension? Yes, it is. And am I glad to hear that? Yes, I am. Because to get better and to improve, that's exactly what we need.
Tim, just finally in the football review, these are the main reasons that Teague was sacked. Confusion with the game plan, too much offence and not enough defence, a gap between expectations and standards, and Teague's ability to influence the players. They were the main reasons that Carlton parted company with Teague. So they think they can get lots more next year out of this group, Tim.
Thanks, Tom. Geelong has said their farewell to family and touched down in Adelaide with a spot in a preliminary final up for grabs against Port Adelaide tomorrow night. Star midfielder Mitch Duncan has dismissed suggestions he's underdone as he returns for more than just 2 months out with injury.
A celebration of a different kind for Geelong champion Tom Hawkins. Daughters Belle and Mimi running through a banner on the family farm to mark their dad's 300-game milestone. The Cats flew out from Avalon to Adelaide this afternoon as they prepare to take on Port.
We're going to try and get the game on our terms for as long as possible, and I think we'll go a long way winning if that happens.
A welcome inclusion, Mitch Duncan, the veteran on the sidelines since injuring his right knee in round 14.
I want to thank my 10 to 11 years before that of not really being injured and not missing too many pre-seasons.
The midfield star says the club is ready to embrace hub life again.
We're going to be away for, hopefully a month to 5 weeks, but I think it would all be worth it.
And he plans to be there deep into September.
You've got that really hungry mentality to perform and get better.
It's the chance to excise last year's premiership demons.
It would be massive. Not too many grand finals have moved from Melbourne.
Jacqueline Felgate, 7 News.
Darcy Parish heads into the final series with the knowledge he's now a marked man with opposition taggers. The Bulldogs midfield has some challenges of its own, and they've got a special message too for former teammate Jake Stringer.
He's the most improved player in the AFL, but that title comes with extra attention, both good and bad, including opposition taggers.
It has been a real challenge, but I guess it's a bit of a compliment as well from opposition sides.
Between rounds 9 to 16, Parish averaged 10 clearances a game in a dominant 7 weeks. Since then, that number has nearly halved to 5 clearances on average for the final 7 games of the season. Learning to break the shackles of the game's best stoppers is the latest hurdle.
I've been, obviously speaking to Shirley and Zachy along the way. They've had to deal with tags throughout their career as well. Just embracing it and I guess the acceptance of it. There's been little tricks of the trade that I'm learning along the way.
The Dogs midfield bats equally deep, but they've lost the spark that had them top of the table for much of the season.
With Ads and Dunks coming back in, it's just about learning how to play with us all in there again.
So I'm sure that cohesion will come, and we've focused on it this week.
Lockie Hunter is the godfather to Jake Stringer's son, but there's a little less love for the 2016 Premiership dog this week at the kennel.
I messaged Jakey early in the week and told him I was going to check him into a Tier 1 site, so he might be out for this week. So we had a laugh about that. He's probably in the form of his career, what he was doing here when he was at the peak of his powers.
Andrew McCormack, 7 News.
To breaking news, and Collingwood football boss Graham Wright has just revealed the club's coaching race is down to 4. It comes as Nick Dacos officially confirms he'll join the Magpies as a father-son selection in the upcoming draft. The son of Peter is widely tipped to go number 1 after eye-catching performances in the underage competitions. Serena Williams is the latest star to pull out of the US Open. The 23-time major champ is one short of Margaret Court's record, but says her torn hamstring has not yet completely healed. She joins Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal on the sidelines. England paceman James Anderson has sent a warning ahead of this summer's Ashes series, humiliating India on day 1 of the 3rd test at Headingley with a stunning spell of 3 for 6, which included the wicket of captain Virat Kohli for just 7. India was bowled out for just 78, its 3rd lowest test total of all time. And when it comes to persistence in the face of adversity, this story is near impossible to top. For Darren Hicks, winning silver in the 3,000 metres individual pursuit is every bit as good as gold after what he's been through. On his first day as a truck driver, Darren's brakes failed. 2 people were tragically killed and he lost a leg.
As much as I had to give, 335s. It's not quite what I wanted, but it's also not too bad. So, yeah, stoked, mate. Bloody stoked.
Hicks was elevated to the gold medal race after a rival was disqualified. And Mitch, the front bar is back tonight. Eddie Betts, the special guest from 8:30 here on 7.
Looking forward to that. Thank you very much indeed. Tim, Jane is next with the forecast. And Jane, how does the end of the week look?
Well, Mitch, there is a lot more grey sky. Then it turns into a warmer and sunny Saturday. The full details are next.
Tonight on the latest from 7 News, the rollout accelerates. The vaccine targets being brought forward. When we'll make those milestones? New details, the Qantas routes expected to be available by December. And we take you to Tokyo as Australia goes for more gold tonight. Join me for the latest from 7 News after the front bar.
Hello again. After lots of grey sky this morning, we had a few pockets of sunshine. There's more grey tomorrow, then Saturday looks nice. Early this morning, it was just a 5.5 in the city, as low as 2 in outer suburbs. Then that grey spread through before breaking up this afternoon. But it is cold. We only reached a top of 12.9. Under the grey, there was rain on the radar. It's very light, more like just a spit rather than anything that accumulates. As that cleared out, showers popped up in outer eastern suburbs. Cold rain over East Gippsland spread across parts of the south, along with grey sky, tops of just 9 or 10. A bit of that cloud moved over the north after frost at first. Then there were local showers on either side of the ranges. The cloud and rain comes from a deep low over the Tasman Sea. Its orientation sends that rain only into Gippsland. It now skips New South Wales. They're in the clear. This pattern continues for one more day. Then high pressure finally comes in with sunshine. But it is only a short break. The next cold front is not far away. So the low continues to push that rain into southeastern parts for one more day. Most of the north and west looks dry. Then there is a lot more sunshine on Saturday as it warms up. Then on Saturday night and Sunday, the next cold front brings another burst of wet weather and alpine snow. So Saturday during the day is the nice part of the weekend. Around the nation tomorrow, breezy sunshine for Brisbane, partly cloudy in Sydney, grey and drizzly in Canberra, while Adelaide warms up in the sunshine and Perth cloudy but dry. To Victoria, let's split the state into 2. Anywhere here in the southeast corner, grey skies with rain or drizzle that extends just across the ranges. In the rest of the north and west, all dry with lots of sunshine. Now that split means the risk of frost extends down into the southwest of the state tomorrow morning too, thanks to those clear skies overhead. Closer in, we have a grey end to the week. There's a chance of a bit of drizzle spilling over from Gippsland. That's into our outer southeastern suburbs. The rest should be quite dry like today. The city may reach 15, but it is feeling cold, only slowly rising from a chilly start. It's cloudy but dry underneath. To the 8-day outlook, that cloud rapidly clears to a sunny Saturday. That is the pick of the weekend. We shoot up to 18 after a cool start. It's wet on Sunday, lots of showers moving through, only 14. That clears out for Monday and Tuesday and temperatures start to rise. But the sunny stretch and warm stretch is later next week. What a fabulous start to spring. We could reach 15 tomorrow, cold and cloudy, but just one more grey day until our sunny Saturday, Mitch.
We've almost made it through another winter.
Indeed.
Thank you, Jane. Now here's what's on Sunrise tomorrow.
Thanks, Mitch. When you wake up, is your car now worth more than you paid for it?
What's spiking used car prices? And the tips to cash in. See you in the morning, Melbourne.
And that's the way it is this Thursday, the 26th of August. Thanks for your company. For now, from the team, good night.